I think the next thing that I want to talk about is the problem of Discord, okay? Discord has been around for some time and it's always had a few difficulties. You know, I was doing some browsing around the enshittification of Discord and I found this article that was talking about some of the ways that has been taking place. Yeah, so in this article, this one's talking about prior to the, I guess, rise of Discord, the alternatives that had existed. You know, you had Skype and TeamSpeak, and they brought in Discord as something sort of for the people. And they drew a comparison to the ways that Facebook was kind of framed as the not MySpace, and the way that the Discord was framed as the not Skype and not TeamSpeak. And they spoke about the two definitions of enshittification. It's the tendency of businesses to establish a two-sided market when it can't grow further. Quote, it's a three-stage process. First, platforms are good to their users. Then they abuse their users to make things better for their business customers. Finally, they abuse those business customers to claw back all the value for themselves. Then they die. And in the second meaning, which you can invoke enshittification anytime you observe a decline in the quality of a service. Google is a fantastic example. You used to be able to find things on Google. And so Facebook has enshittified over time, Google has enshittified over time, and Discord has enshittified over time. Everything from the whole NFT and LLM stuff, the way that they're almost trying to be another one of the big platforms that hosts screenshots from all the other platforms, right? So I was watching this conversation and I was thinking about what has recently been taking place with regards to Discord. And that is the treatment of basically everybody like they're teenagers until proven otherwise. So I've never really liked Discord that much, okay? I created my server because a bunch of people in my audience asked me to. You can ask anybody in that server. I'm not very active in that server. Discord servers are just not for me. They have their functions. I mean, I'm part of some gaming servers for some of the games that I play just to get news from the devs. I'm part of a few other smaller servers, but again, not very active because it's not for me. It's not my chosen platform. I don't even like dark mode. I mean, this is probably the most controversial take I'm going to put out on the internet. I don't like dark mode on apps in general. So the fact that Discord is dark mode by default is just another one of the things that I guess gives me a kind of a griminess that keeps me out of being on that platform. I'm just not into that sort of space. And of course, there's the reputation the Discord has and everything. The whole Discord mod stereotype, Discord kitten stereotype, and all the creepy stuff that has been known to take place on Discord as well. It's all very much radioactive to me. I have friends who use it actively, who have their own personal servers, who use it just to coordinate their games or have conversations, keep up with each other. That's their primary messaging platform. It's just not for me. And then Discord came out with this news that they'll now treat everyone like a teen unless they prove they're an adult, essentially. This has just been a way of, I think, let me read the article first. Discord is expanding stricter age settings to users around the world. Messaging-based social platform announced on Monday that starting next month, it will set all new and existing accounts to what it calls teen by default setting. That means users who want access to age-restricted content and features will now need to verify they're adults. How are they verifying it, by the way? They're verifying it by asking for your identification or scanning your face or analyzing based on your previous activity. So they claim. The excuse that they're using is that, we're trying to protect the children. And the protecting the children excuse is on the level of Red Scale and war on drugs and war on terror excuse, right? It's a made-up justification for increasing surveillance, increasing intervention, increasing control in people's lives, violations of their privacy. Yeah, I'm blinding myself on these apps. Wherever two or three are gathered, there they are in the midst. Israel and the FBI. Yeah, so I am not into Discord. Protecting the children from being sympathetic Palestinians. Yeah, exactly that. That's the kind of energy they're moving with. Especially with that buyout to TikTok and the steps they were taking to basically suppress any pro-Palestinian speech on that platform. Madness. Discord has been known to give your data to law enforcement. They've been known to enable pedophilia, basically. And so I guess they're trying to cover their ass when it comes to the enabling pedophilia allegations by using this excuse to implement what I consider to be part of a broader shift on the internet to de-anonymize these platforms. Now, the thing about these platforms is that kind of concentration on platforms and the platformification of the internet has already been a problem for some time. In the early days of the internet, people had websites, used to browse on different websites and different forums and stuff. And then everything got concentrated and everything converged onto these corporate platforms where they now have this ridiculous amount of control over global conversations and global social interactions and the internet. Their share of the internet has only grown in the past few decades. And that's been a problem. Related to that problem is, I guess, to coin another term, the discordification of information. The way that so much useful and valuable information has been hidden away into these Discord servers. If you're trying to find like a solution to a problem you have, and you have to join a Discord server and check their thread and agree to their rules on these different things just to access important information. It's ridiculous, right? And all of this, like I said, is just feeding into this corporate state monopoly and surveillance. And so I've been looking at alternatives because I may not use my server, I may not use my Discord profile very often, but I see the value of the server and I want to be able to, I think, use the platform that I have to encourage people to move off of these mainstream platforms. This incident was, a kick in the behind, I guess, a kick in the pants to get things going, to get the ball rolling with the kind of changes that are necessary. So I've been talking in the Discord more frequently than usual, and we've been discussing a few of the different alternatives that exist, right? So people have been suggesting Matrix. Let me pull that up. So the Matrix platform, that's the thing, it's not the most SEO optimized name, but you have Matrix, which is an open network for secure decentralized communication. That's all good. I looked into it. Personally, I'm not a tech enthusiast. I'm not a hobbyist. I will not be setting up and self-hosting a server. I think it's also a bit more secure, which is a weird thing to say, but it's a bit more secure than necessary for the alternative that I'm looking for, which is not for my personal use, but for the hosting of my very, I would say, semi-public, learning-focused Discord server. Like, we're not organizing on that Discord server. We're not sending each other instructions on how to put together an IED or anything like that on that server, right? It's very much, hey, here's some real material. Hey, that video is pretty cool. Let's talk about it. Hey, I have a question about this topic. And people exchange on there. It's not something that requires bunkering down in, like, cells and engaging in a protracted guerrilla war. So Matrix doesn't really fit for purpose for the alternative that I'm seeking, in my opinion. It also has pretty poor moderation tools, and so I would say that it's not really for me. But I do recommend looking into it if it's something that piques your interest. There's another alternative called Quiet, which again, very poor SEO, I would say. This is another one of those platforms that I think is really trying to be that Discord alternative. Like, they actually market themselves as such. You don't have to set up your own server to do it. Privacy of Tor built in. And the problem, I think, with Quiet is that while it has certain things set up already, as you could see here, other things are not yet set up. They haven't put in multiple communities yet. There aren't direct messages yet. Profiles, mentions, removals. These are things that are kind of necessary to, I would say, run a semi-public Discord server. And so I'm going to let them cook, but they're not ready yet. You dig? Let me see what chat's saying. Yeah, I think setting up an old-fashioned text forum is nice, but that requires me to actually host it, which is not something that I'm willing to do. Yeah, Matrix is wonky, very tech geek energy. Yeah, I'm not too much feeling that. It's great for the enthusiasts, but I think the enthusiasts overestimate the willingness of the general public to pick up these, I think, more effort-intensive platforms. Not to say that it's impossible, just something to consider. The other one I was looking at that I saw referenced was Fluxer, right? Open source instant messaging. This one I think is actually a bit more developed since the last time I looked at it. So it has a messaging, full markdown support, voice and audio, join from multiple devices, built-in screen sharing. Seems to have a lot of stuff set up already. Self-hosting as well. Again, hosting, not for me. I'm still on Windows, for crying out loud. I'm not a Linux guy. I am looking into setting up my own cloud storage using a laptop. I've been getting like YouTube recommendations for that. So I want to look into doing that. But that's like my personal use. Like, I'm not trying to set up a public server that requires, I think, a lot more involvement and maintenance that I'm willing to put in. I really see the server as a kind of a set it and forget it, because, like I keep saying, I'm not into the server culture personally. But yeah, it's not that I don't know how to set up Linux, it's just I have things that I need Windows to use, and I know there are ways to like multi-load. I can't remember the term for it. You could like set up 2 operating systems onto one device. There's some really good distros I know are really similar to Windows that are really intuitive and stuff, but I haven't hyped myself up to make that jump quite yet. I have been considering it lately, which is I think a major step from where I would have been a year or 2 ago, where I'm just like totally not interested. But yeah, I'm not there yet, right? Let's see. Another alternative that I saw people shouting out was Neuremity, open source chat app, sleek design, full source code on GitHub, fan communities, etc. Have not looked very deeply into this one, so I'm a bit curious as to what if people have experience with this platform. There's also XMPP. I saw some people mention in the server. Universal Messaging Standard, right? Independent, privacy focused. It's been around for some time. It's a living standard. Millions use it daily. Congratulations, good for them. Okay, getting started, right? You download a client. Which, I mean, these names kind of remind me of those streaming service names. Like, oh, it's on People, you know, it's on Mubi. You just have to set up the Movim client, the Gajim. Yo, just load up the modal real quick. Actually, no, I think I prefer the Beagle. Really, y'all on Beagle? I'm on Yaxim. Anyway, so then you have to set up an account and you log in and that's it. Again, you could use XMPP providers, or you could be your own provider by hosting a server yourself. I want to take a little, I guess, temperature check once I'm done going through all of them, and y'all can let me know what you're all feeling. Me personally, I'm leaning towards the last option, which I'm going to get to in a second, because I already kind of set it up. But I'm open to the other suggestions. There's this one as well, slrpnk.net, solarpunk.net. Seems to be more of a Reddit alternative, but I guess I just wanted to shout it out because I know a lot of people in my audience are into Solarpunk, so that'll be good to share. Especially if you're trying to get out the Reddit ecosystem, you could jump on to solarpunk.net, right? And speaking of Solarpunk shout outs, you should definitely check out Story Seed Library. It is currently translated in a bunch of different languages, and it is human-made art, not AI art. So you're gonna get stuff by the people for the people related to the concept of Solarpunk. Last but not least, I've been doing a lot of looking into Stoat, not the animal, but the platform, which is formerly known as Revolt. They have been getting a lot of attention. They've gotten a flood of people trying to jump in. They seem to have a good amount of stuff set up already, in terms of DMs, in terms of group chats, in terms of calls. I guess they weren't ready for the flood of people that tried to shift over, and so there was a bit of a delay for me to set up an account. I think it took like 16 hours or something like that for me to get my verification email to get set up. But the server is actually set up now. In fact, I should probably pull up that link for y'all. And yeah, a lot of them really are not SEO friendly. Like, you have to type in each of these things and type in platform after it because they're not really popular yet. I think there's almost like an arms race to set up an alternative, and a lot of people are pushing their options. A lot of people are trying to now fund new options as if we don't have like plenty of options in existence already. So what are we feeling in terms of all of these Discord alternatives? How do we, I guess, make that determination? How do we make that jump? How does an alternative become the alternative? I don't know, you know? I think each of them, I guess, have their strengths, their weaknesses. People will naturally gravitate towards things that feel intuitively best for them. I think the ones that most resemble Discord have the best chance of being an alternative. Currently, I'm set up on Stoat. I might still look into the other options, but it just was the easiest for me to just jump into, besides the little delay with the email verification. But, you know, maybe not everybody needs to be on one platform. Maybe that is the problem that we need to get away from in the first place. And furthermore, besides just moving platforms, I think it's really important to get off of the internet. I think moving platforms actually helps with that. A lot of the alternatives that I find to mainstream social media, things like Mastodon being a kind of a Twitter alternative, or some of these other, I'm blanking on some of the other alternatives that I see to mainstream social media. But the things that I've noticed about them is they're very unstimulated. You know, so I kind of almost bored using them. Partially because not as many people use them, so there's less quote-unquote content, but also they're not hyper optimized to capture your rage, capture your emotions, your attention. And so I think you can approach those platforms a bit more intentionally with how you use them and use them less. You know, when I came off of Twitter, yeah, people would tell me, go onto Mastodon, go into Blue Sky, and I set up accounts on both of those. But I'm actually not trying to replace Twitter in my life. I've been off Twitter for years now, besides jumping on to share the link to my latest video. I don't need Twitter in my life, right? I'm glad to break that habit, and I'm not really trying to fill it with Mastodon or with Blue Sky or anything. But for the people who do want to, I guess, fill that void, more power to you. And I would say that it's actually a better choice because it, I think, compels you to, again, be more intentional with how you use social media. And also, I think it's a healthier and more self-directed space. You know, you, in a sense, have to be your own algorithm when you're on these kinds of federated platforms. The main thing I think I want people to take away from this is that these big incidents where these massive tech companies put their foot in their mouth, as it were, and really compel a large chunk of people to abandon ship, they're fantastic opportunities to encourage other people, to encourage the quote-unquote normies, the mainstream people, the regular schmegular Joes in your life, to get off of corporate media and to move to decentralized media, to show them, you know, the potential of those alternatives. And I think we should take advantage of it. I think you should not be scaring people away with some of these options. Like, I hate to say it, but some of these options, I think, are going to be by and for the enthusiasts. There's nothing wrong with that. Other options, I think, have a bit more mainstream appeal. And if we want to get people onto the decentralized internet, we have to start, I think, with the most accessible, the easiest off-ramps. And I think that some of the platforms I've spoken about, like Stoat or Nerimity or Quiet, I think they offer the easiest off-ramps for most people. Meshtastic, I've heard about Mesh something in relation to like mesh networks in the context of, I guess, a bottom-up internet. Something to look into, I suppose, yeah. But yeah, also I agree we shouldn't stick to one platform. Definitely spread your presence, experiment with a few different options, look into various alternatives, and don't feel the need to settle into one. I think a lot of people want to settle into one though, because, I mean, who wants a bunch of emails coming in to their inbox all the time from all these different platforms? I mean, thankfully, some of these platforms don't spam your email like the mainstream social media platforms do. But still, a lot of people just want a solution to their end goal, which is communicating with their friends. And whichever platform does that, they'll go with that. Whichever platform has their friends on it, they'll go on that platform. 100% curate your own internet experience. I float a little bit every time I block somebody from my comments. You know, every time I close my laptop screen on some stupidness, like I feel lighter. It's so sad to see some of the more normie servers I'm on dooming out over this, like that there's not even a point in trying to feralize stuff because everything is ruined eventually. That's the thing, if things are under people's control, if they're open source, if they're accountable to the large community of, and I say this with love, nerds who pour over that kind of stuff, I think you have a better chance of retaining control of those platforms compared to these closed systems that are either publicly or privately traded that are accountable to nobody but their shareholders. So just a few quick updates since I had that live stream. Discord has kind of backed off on the decision to implement the age verification, at least for now. They're still going to implement it eventually, but the deadline of the end of February is no longer the case. However, I don't want that to deter people from making the necessary switch off of Discord, because for a variety of reasons, Discord is not the move. These mainstream big tech platforms are not the move, and we need to reclaim our control over the internet through these sorts of free and open source software programs. The second update is that while originally I was leaning towards Stoat, low-key I kind of lost my account on Stoat, and aside from that, I'm leaning more toward Fluxer. Fluxer is planning to integrate Federation eventually, and despite some hiccups over the past weekend with moving the API, they, I believe, are fully set now for an influx of people, and I've set up my server on there accordingly. So I'm going to have the link to that server in the description. Please join if you're either an anarchist or interested in learning about anarchism. It's going to be called the library. It's going to be a space where you can really just ask questions, learn new things, get resources, and connect with others in this space. If that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, again, the link is in the description. I also encourage people to explore other platforms as well. Let 1,000 flowers bloom, as they say. You don't have to be funneled into one singular platform. The internet is not limited to the feeds of a few social media platforms. The internet is a world wide web. Let's move accordingly. As usual, all power to all the people. Check the link in the description. Peace.